What's going on, guys? It is Tyson Trainer here, back with another episode of Sports Talk. And today I'm just going to be covering weight loss, because as you know, you being an athlete in sport, sometimes there are going to be weight classes that you have to stay in between or get down to. And so when it comes to weight loss, we want to make sure we're trying to do it in the safest manner possible. With the least reduction in your performance. We never want to negatively impact your performance. I guess overall, just make sure that you can do it safely, because a lot of people, especially in weight class sports like, let's say, MMA, powerlifting, things like that, where people are doing drastic water cuts or trying to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time to make their goal weight, and it can actually be more detrimental than beneficial. And there's definitely times and places for water cutting and things like that, but I myself, even though I'm not as educated as a lot of other people, I personally don't think it's the best way to do it, especially with water cutting. And for someone who hasn't done it before, you should be having experience with those type of things in order to be able to do it. Otherwise, you could be going into a water cut for your first time trying to make this competition, and you could completely fuck it up and, again, have shitty performance or not make the weight class, or even potentially go into a hospital if you don't know what you're doing, because the hyponatremia that you could be causing yourself. So with the whole water weight cutting thing, I'm not going to be covering that today. It could be something for later on down the track, but again, I'm not a huge advocate of it. So instead, we're going to talk about safe weight loss and how you can do it effectively. Okay? So firstly, going back to, I guess, the energy balance and the energy availability the videos I've talked about, you know that there is a certain amount of calories we need to be eating every day in order to maintain our energy balance. So, eat as much as we're burning to maintain our weight, but also to be in an optimal energy availability. And again, if you're a female, that would be 45 calories per kilogram of lean body mass. And if you're a male, that's going to be between 40 to 45 calories per kilogram lean body mass. So with that being said, when we go into a deficit, we want to make sure we're not going into such a big deficit that's going to be causing us to have a low energy availability state and cause issues for us, right? Now, in order to do this, what we're going to have to do is, firstly, we figured out, obviously, the calories you're burning just on a daily basis, so your TDEE, then with that TDEE, also making sure that you're counting your calories burned during exercise. So, we've got our exercise that's going to burn is X amount of calories every day. Then we've got our steps and our body weight that's also going to be burning calories. So when we add those two together, let's say in general, you're going to be burning 3,500 calories a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the other days you're going to be burning calories, let's say 2,700, based on just your activity training. So with all that being said, what I would do, because you're an athlete, we want to actually try and change your calorie intake every day based on your training and based on staying at optimal energy availability, or close to optimal, to make sure every day you're recovering, still losing body fat, not negatively impacting your performance, or just making sure you're not in any low energy availability state for any day, okay? So you can do it overall, like I recommend, with just general population, which means like Monday to Sunday, you have the same calorie deficit all the way through, which is a simple way to do it. However, again, if you are having more intense training days, more volume on training days in regards to distance running or distance swimming and things like that, or the training's just ramping up and you're burning more calories, you're going to have to take that into consideration and think, do you actually need to micromanage more on a day-to-day basis and change your calories up and down based on that? So it's a little bit of food for thought. I would personally say, if you do have the time, make sure you try and micromanage it while adjusting those calories to make sure that every day it's kind of suiting the amount of calories you burn. Now, again, we can't be exact with that either. We can't be like, yes, I'm burning X amount of calories today, X amount of calories tomorrow, because our body isn't a calculator and it's not going to be perfect. But close to perfect / optimal is what we're kind of chasing here to get the best bang for your buck, if that makes sense, right? So what we're going to decide first is how much weight you need to lose, okay? If it's a significant amount of weight in a short amount of time, you're going to have to put yourself in a bigger calorie deficit, but you have a higher risk of going, again, into a low energy availability state, which we don't want. So the ideal situation would be to be as far away from that event as possible, right, to make sure you're going to get to that weight, all right? So again, let's say it's going to be in 12 weeks' time. Well, now we have a lot more time to be able to get to that weight, and let's say you only need to lose 4 kilos in 12 weeks. All right, cool. We don't have to be as much of a deficit as we think we need to be, versus having to lose 8 kilos in 12 weeks. Now you're going to be really pumping it. So it's all going to depend on, how much you have to lose, the time you have to lose, and also the size of you and who you are. If you're a bigger individual, you're a heavier person, you're going to be able to kind of push it a little bit harder and lose a little bit more weight. But if you're someone who's on this lighter side of things, especially if you're a female weight athlete class, and you're in the, let's say, 70s and below, you're going to have a hard time being able to eat as much as a normal person. Or, when you're trying to lose, there's only so much you can lose without starting to compromise loss of muscle mass or, again, low energy availability. So with all this being said, all these things got to take into account. what ideally we would want to look at is to lose about 0.5% of our body weight a week, which would be the ideal situation. So 0.5% of your body weight would obviously be half of your body weight in grams, right? So for me, 90 kilos, half of that would be 450 grams a week, or 500 grams. So that would be a 500 calorie deficit a day to lose that, okay? However, again, if you're someone who's a little bit heavier, let's say you're 120 kilos, you can lose 600 grams a day for 0.5%, or up to the 1% mark, all right? But so we want to sit between 0.5% and 1% of our body weight loss a week. The higher we are up to that 1% body weight loss a week, the higher chance you have of losing muscle mass, okay? So this is why we want to try and keep it, as low as a deficit as we can to lose the weight, to not negatively impact performance, but to still make the goal target in time. Slow and low is the best way to go. That rhymed, didn't even make that up. So that's what I would be saying. So looking at about 0.5% would be ideal for us in this situation. So what does this kind of look like in calories? Again, if for me, 90 kilo male, if I want to lose 500 grams a week or 450 grams, that's actually a 500 calorie deficit a day. Because roughly for every 100 calories you're in a deficit, you're going to lose about 90 grams of fat. Give or take. That's not an exact thing, but that's kind of the way that the numbers change over to. So, again, if you're a female and you're 60 kilos and you need to lose 0.5% of your body weight a week and you want to lose 300 grams, you're only going to be in a 400 calorie deficit, or a 380 calorie deficit, or whatever it's going to be, but 400 to round it off, okay? And then this way, it's a small enough deficit to make sure, again, you're losing half of that body fat percentage a week, but not enough to be losing muscle mass if you're making sure you're eating double your body weight in protein, and also making sure that you're keeping your carbohydrates high and just not going too low on the calories, all right? So try and think about, how much time do you have? What's the percentage of body weight you want to lose? Again, not fast. We do not want to do this fast if you do not want to negatively impact your performance. Pick the time frame, pick the percentage, then you decide your calories. Again, every 100 calories is going to be about 90 grams of fat loss a day, lost for every 100 calories you have. So if I'm having a 500 calorie deficit a day, over the week is going to be the total amount. So if I have a 500 calorie deficit a day, right, over that week it's going to be a 3,500 calorie deficit. I'm going to lose about 450 grams off that calorie deficit. If, again, I'm going to be doing a 600 calorie deficit or a 1,000 calorie deficit a day, if I was doing a 1,000 calorie deficit a day, I'd be in a 7,000 calorie deficit. By the end of the week, I'd lose about 630 grams. Okay, so again, not 100%, but that's kind of how it matches over. So that way you can kind of calculate your calories based on the daily calories you're going to burn, then subtract those amount of calories. And so let's say, again, you were eating 3,500, you want to lose half a kilo a week, you're now down to 3,000. From this point, we now want to divide that 3,000. We want to do the same things we usually do to calculate our energy availability. So total calories, take away exercise calories, divided by our lean body mass in kilograms, and then we're going to see, are we still in a good energy availability range? We do not want to drop below 30 calories per kilogram of lean body mass, The higher you can keep that energy availability while dieting, the better. It's going to be way more beneficial for you. If you have a significant amount of weight to lose, there is going to be some points where you probably will go into low energy availability state, but you don't want to stay there. You want to get in, do it as quick as you can, get straight out of that low energy availability state and getting back into optimal energy availability, getting back into just homeostasis overall. So when that comes into play, just be aware that people obviously are going to have to go to that point, but you don't want to maintain that for a long period of time because that's when you start to get the detrimental side effects, So just be aware of that too is going to be quite an important thing. And it's always just got to be running in the back of your mind to make sure, am I making sure I'm eating enough to not negatively impact my physiology or anything else? Because that's the last thing that we want, right? Like performance is going to be first. Health is just overall first, an important thing too. So all these things have to be kind of, variables you have to take into account. And this is also why, having a coach is also good because if they're educated as a sports nutritionist or a sports dietitian or whatever it's going to be, they're going to make sure that you're staying in these great states and keeping you on the right track to not cause any detriments to your overall health, performance, or any negative impacts that could be happening. All right. Now, finally, what I would try and say for you, try and maintain close to your body weight where always you're going to be. We always talk about bulking, cutting, whether you're going to be a sports athlete like Olympic lifting or powerlifting and stuff like that. And yes, while mass does move mass and you can get heavier, it's also very hard to, you keep trying to move up this mass and then you're 6, 7, 8 kilos away from your goal, and then your goal, you've got to get back to that so quickly. And then when you try and do an aggressive cut, you're going to lose a large majority of that strength you've actually gained, you know. So with that, I would say if you're going to try and bulk, do it slowly, do it small amounts, because then you can cut back down to that weight that you need to be at without having any detrimental side effects of losing strength gains, or, you know, again, like having shitty performance because now you're in such a big deficit. If that makes sense. And finally, the length of the period. So we've kind of looked at where you're going to be going. We've looked at where you are now. But we also want to put this into chunks, right? So ideally, what you would want to do if you are going to be in a deficit phase, no longer than 12 weeks at a time. So you're going on a deficit phase for 12 weeks, if you need that long. Then you have a 2 weeks maintenance break. At that 2 weeks maintenance break, you would calculate your new calories based off your current body weight. So if after 12 weeks, you've lost, let's say, 5 kilos, okay? So now you calculate your new maintenance calories off that 5 kilo lost body weight. So if you're 90, you're now 85. So 85 times 24 if you're a male, or 22 if you're a female, times your steps. Then calculate your calorie burn from your exercises. Because remember, when you're getting lighter, you're burning less calories overall. So this all needs to be taken into consideration. So we've calculated our new maintenance calories based on our exercise calories burned, our daily steps, and our body weight. Then we stay at maintenance for 2 weeks. Then we create the new deficit off the new body weight. So that way, you're always optimizing everything you can, keeping things on point as you're segmenting down into the weight class or whatever you want to be in. And that's basically how you're going to do it, you know. So it's quite easy. Just, again, a lot of it just comes down to doing some math, some quick maths in your head, and that way it's going to be the best way for you to be able to lose weight, you know, sufficiently, not too slow, but not too fast, and so be able to maintain your performance as best as possible. If you found that helpful, I'd like for you guys to share this video, and as always, you can find me on Instagram at Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's. And until next time, guys, I'll